perhaps one of the more controversial races on Tamriel. The Altmer have this bit of a love-hate relationship among people of the Elder Scrolls community, and now the Summerset Isles is a location that we get to explore in ESO a lot, but in the main games we really didn't get too much of. So essentially, we're going to be talking about the recent history of the Summerset Isles, and we've been doing this as a continuation of the recent series we have been doing. It is the second to last province we have to do. I believe the only one we have left is Morrowind, and before we even begin, I actually want to make a huge thank you, or give a huge thank you to everyone. We have reached 750 subs. Expect something soon. I have to move relatively soon, so there is that, but I plan on streaming. I most likely will do XCOM 2, so expect that relatively soon though. But with that, let us begin with the recent history of the Summerset Isles. Like all these recent history videos, I basically discuss the 4th era history, and before I get into it, I'd like to discuss the mid to late 3rd era history, because that helps explain or even show why some of the events in the 4th era are happening. So essentially, what is going on to the Summerset Isles in the 3rd era? They are under control of a monarch who answers to the Imperial Empire, the Septim Empire, the Third Empire. You know, they're all the same thing. So essentially, it is a king that serves an emperor here. Just kind of think of the High King of Skyrim, or maybe even the tribunal answering to the emperor in this case. So essentially, there's not too much going on. The province is in relative peace, and on a cultural level, there is this kind of difficult tension between the Empire and the Dominion, and not the Dominion, but the Summerset Isles, because the elves and men have this really complicated, difficult history with one another. The only major conflict that ever came around was a near war that happened between the Empire and the Summerset Isles, and this was due to trade tariffs being placed on the Isles themselves. But without that, not too much was going on, but there was this rise of xenophobia within the Summerset Isles themselves. There was a small faction known as the Thalmor that really rose up into prominence after the Oblivion Crisis, and the Summerset Isles really got hit hard by the Oblivion Crisis. Just before the Oblivion Crisis, the Thalmor were nothing more than a small band of people that were a minority in the political sphere of the monarchy and the inner circle of the Summerset Isles. Now, essentially, when the Oblivion Gates opened around Tamriel, the Summerset Isles were thrown into anarchy. The monarchy proved to be virtually useless, and refugees were slaughtered by the thousands. Those who tried to flee were then found to be killed in storms that were conjured up by the Daedra. Now, towards the end, in this is where basically things start to get better. The High Elves took a defense at the Crystal Tower, and when the Crystal Tower collapsed, this caused the Daedra cords to virtually vanish and disappear. Now, this is a little bit of a mystery of what was going on, but the Thalmor took this opportunity to take credit of the events. And although it was all High Elves, whether they were Thalmor or not, they were mages, archers, and warriors alike defending the tower. Yet it seems that the High Elves, or the Thalmor more or less, not the High Elves, but the Thalmor took credit for this. And essentially, any who voiced a differing opinion about why this miracle or miraculous event happened, they were exiled or assassinated one by one, or found their reputations virtually diminished. And then one example of this was a great seer mage known as Ranador the Bold, and he commanded the defense of the Crystal Tower during the Oblivion Crisis, and he is considered to be a great hero of it. However, he was quickly assassinated after he was exiled to Anvil, and most think that this was due to the Thalmor because he had differing opinions of what happened. In 22 of the 4th era, after the wake of the Oblivion Crisis, the Stormcrown Interregnum saw the Empire really struggle, and the Legion was unable to protect anyone in the region, and henceforth the tax collectors and corruption rose significantly within the province. The Altmer and Almiri citizens essentially rose up in rebellion and would eventually kill multiple kings and queens until they got someone who was of the blood of the Altmer, and this led to the formation of the Third Almiri Dominion, named after the first that happened back with Queen Erin and what we see in ESO. So not much happens in the Summerset Isles themselves, so I'm not going to cover a majority of the events that go on in the Fourth Era because they don't specifically end up happening in the Summerset Isles themselves. However, I will briefly talk about some of the things that happened outside of the Isles that was due to the Thalmor. So with the Thalmor established, they essentially became a superpower rapidly. From the years 29 to 100 of the Fourth Era, they quickly spread and led a coup in Valenwood, and actually had a small brief war with Valenwood as well, which resulted in a few of the islands outside of Valenwood being captured by the Aldmeri Dominion. And then this allowed the Thalmor to stage a coup later on and eventually take over very quickly, and this resulted in the formation of the Aldmeri Dominion, not just the Thalmor. Now, once they had gathered enough support to challenge the Empire, that's when they started eyeing up Ellisware. So Ellisware at this point was a little bit of a unique point because they were independent then not independent, and then once the Main was assassinated, the Thalmor really took in and then took credit for the Void Knights, which again is relatively unknown in how they ever could have done something as similar as bring back the moons. However, they did, and then Imperial influence in the region diminished greatly, and the Ellisfair Confederacy was eventually dissolved in a coup, resulting in two client kingdoms being established under the Dominion. Then, lastly, the biggest major event here would be the Great War and the signing of the White Gold Concordat between the years 171 and 175. The Summerset Isles were not affected at all by this. However, they waged a massive war against the Empire and eventually invaded Hammerfell as well, which Hammerfell was part of it, but they had a separate war after the White Gold Concordat was signed. So essentially they did very well at first, but were defeated multiple times, eventually with their main army being virtually wiped out in Cyrodiil and another army being wiped out in Hammerfell or pushed to a standstill. We really don't know if that army was wiped out or not. So although the Thalmor won the war, they didn't necessarily have control of all of the continent. Now, there was a degree of influence that was asserted over the Empire. However, this is widely hated throughout the Empire, and we don't know whether or not they have influence in Morrowind or Blackmarsh. It is assumed they may, but we don't know too much, them being independent now. And with Hammerfell, we could definitely conclude that Hammerfell and the Summerset Isles do not have a healthy relationship at all, them being bitter rivals. And it's the same with Skyrim, because there is a civil war going on there as well, which the Thalmor are directly trying to influence. Now, as for the Empire and the Dominion, tensions are at an all-time high, even higher than those before the Great War. So, what is going on in the Summerset Isles as we speak? Well, we hear from Malborn in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim that political parties and rivals against the Thalmor are being purged greatly, and this is not going on in just the Summerset Isles, but in Valenwood as well, and we can assume that if it's happening there, it's most likely happening in Ellisware as well, among the Khajiit chieftains. So, essentially, things aren't great if you're against the Thalmor. People are being prosecuted and tried and killed without anything, or just flat out killed without a trial. And the Thalmor are known to be very sneaky and very antagonistic against those who disagree with them, and we see this by multiple times in the Elder Scrolls V. If the Dragonborn acts out against the Thalmor without question will try to kill you or will send assassins after you. So essentially, it's assumed that the Thalmor have an iron grip around the island, and it's only a matter of time before the Summerset Isles eventually sees a civil war or eventual call for a change, because essentially this isn't a maintainable society in terms of over-controlling things. It tends to lead to civil war because tensions will eventually break, and whether or not we see this after another great war or if this will happen before it, we will definitely see something breaking between the Aldmeri Dominion or see some change and reforms being made. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I think this is a continent we don't know relatively too much about. We get to see it in ESO, but we don't have too much of a modern day perspective of it. So let me know what you guys think, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you just stumbled across this video, maybe consider subscribing. I post videos like this once a week, and I post 3 other videos a week as well, and a once a month Dragon Age lore. And if you are a returning subscriber, I hope you enjoyed. Please hit that like button, it always helps. But yeah, we hit 750 subs, so I want to make a big thank you to give a big thank you to all of you guys. It's fantastic that we got here. Expect a stream soon. I will let you guys know in the Discord chat. Feel free to join that in the link below as well. And before I go, I also want to make a big shout out to Aries for allowing me to use his music. It's phenomenal that he allows me to do it. And I haven't done a shout out recently towards him, but Frederick 101 or 1001 for allowing me. His link will be in the description below as well. He's a deviant artist who allows me to use his maps, and that's where you've been able to see some of the more detailed and widespread territorial maps of Tamriel and Akavir. It's phenomenal that he has allowed me to use his work. So I want to make you, I want to, God, I keep saying make you. I want to give a big shout out to his channel as well, or his page at least, because he makes phenomenal stuff, and I really recommend checking it out. But with that, I will see you all in the next video. Peace. If you just happened to stumble upon this video and enjoyed, maybe consider subscribing. If you are a returning subscriber and you enjoyed, please hit that like button. It really helps way more than you actually think it would. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.